foto's.
Ja,
and sour. The letter A was sprayed in a circle everywhere. And everybody's head was getting shaved or spiked. My sister stitched her flares and made them in her drain pipes. She was into adamant and wuthering ice. I was getting into madness and grip the bikes. Mom had to work late, I had no complaints. Used to get away with murder when granddad babysat us. Used to play foxing out till the sun came down. Singing lip up fat, she running wild through the ghost town. And all I wanted was dog boots and braces. My ear pierced, no mom was a racist. She then explained that we weren't quite Caucasian and we could see black children on some future occasion. Had to keep that stum. All my friends are getting brainwashed and infants watch sneakers and scratching on the desktops. Hey, hey, hey. Riots and violence on the TV, broken down on newsround while eating toast toppers, watching coppers get beat down. Church discos and trips with a play scheme, dancing the scar, kissing the girl of my dreams. My 10th birthday and those two-tones stay pressed. Money in my car, but one step beyond yes. Lending to a friend, never got it back. Dear Jim, could you fix it for me? Remember that. Just a 70s baby, early 80s child, reminiscing about the days in a Britain backyard. Just a 70s baby, early 80s child, reminiscing about the days and you think times are hard. Hey, hey, hey. Well, let me tell you now, whoa. One wicked witch was in power, and oh my God, she did devour. Cause the spell called depression made a living hell. Turn man against man, forgot the boys and girls we had. No future, home computer, had to make do with what we had. Knock a door, run in the hand-me-down gowns. Kirby, Irby, crack a jack and run around. Synth pop, Muppet show, electro on the radio. Mom, turn it up, it's a new thing, yeah. Now all I want is high text with fat faces. Got the next best thing, started scratching and breaking. Snatching back some battery by the stack to keep the boom box from going flat. Getting caught and winning over the store with a performance kid. This place has never been so packed. Street left for a spotlight, couple bucks for a stage. And if you had a score to settle, you resolved it with your breaking. Not like now, they're using guns and bats. Robbing old folk, we don't need no more of that. Just a 70s baby, early 80s child, reminiscing about the days in a Britain backyard. Just a 70s baby, early 80s child, reminiscing about the days and you think times are hard. Hey, just a 70s baby, early 80s child, reminiscing about the days in a Britain backyard. Just a 70s baby, early 80s child, reminiscing about the days and you think times are hard. Hey, hey. Last night a DJ saved my life. Last night a DJ saved my life, yeah. 'Cause I was sitting there bored to death, and in just one breath he said, you gotta get up, you gotta get off, you gotta get down, girl. You know you drive me crazy, baby. You've got me turning to another man. Called you on the phone, no one's home. Baby, why leave me all alone? And if it wasn't for the music, I don't know what I'd do. Yeah. Last night a DJ saved my life. Last night a DJ saved my life from a broken heart. Last night a DJ saved my life. Last night a DJ saved my life with a song. You know I hopped into my car, didn't get very far, no. Before I had you on my mind, why be so unkind? You've got your women all around this town. But I was trapped in love with you, and I didn't know what to do. But when I turned on my radio, I found out all I needed to know. Check it out. Last night a DJ saved my life. Last night a DJ saved my life from a broken heart. Last night a DJ saved my life. Last night a DJ saved my life with a song. Last night a DJ saved my life. Last night a DJ saved my life from a broken heart. Last night a DJ saved my life. Last night a DJ saved my life with a song. Hey, listen up to your local DJ. You better hear what he's got to say.
There's not a problem that I can't fix, 'cause I can do it in the mix. And if your man gives you trouble just to move out on the double, and you don't let it trouble your brain, 'cause away goes trouble down the drain. Said away goes trouble down the drain.
Well, all right.
Dub time. There's not a problem that I can't fix, 'cause I can do it in the mix. 'Cause I can do it in the mix. 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 In the mix.
Ladies and gentlemen, in 15 minutes time we will be starting with a new interview here at Room for Discussion. Professor Zielonka will be joining us from Oxford. We will talk about the future of the European Union. It are exciting times for Europe, with a referendum in Italy this Sunday, as well as the Austrian elections that will take place. And of course the French elections next year, as well as the German and the Dutch elections. So please make sure that you're here on time. 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Till then.
Unreroute the rivers, let the damned water beat. There's some people down the way that's thirsty, so let the liquid spirit free. The people are thirsty because of man's unnatural hand. Watch what happens when the people catch wind, when the water hit the banks of that hard, dry land. Liquid spirit, liquid spirit, liquid spirit, liquid spirit. Clap your hands now. Unreroute the rivers, let the damned water beat. There's some people down the way that's thirsty, so let the liquid spirit free. The people are thirsty because of man's unnatural hand. Watch what happens when the people catch wind, when the water hit the banks of that hard, dry land. Liquid spirit. Liquid spirit.
I got this feeling inside my bones. It goes electric wavy when I turn it on. Off from my city, off from my home. We're flying up, no ceiling when we in our zone. I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh, I can't take my eyes off of it, moving so phenomenally. You're more like the way we rock it, so don't stop. And under the lights, when everything goes, nowhere to hide when I'm getting you close. When we move, well, you already know. So just imagine, just imagine. Nothing I can see but you when you dance, dance, dance. Feel good, good creeping up on you. So just dance, dance, dance. Come on, all those things I shouldn't do, but you dance, dance, dance. And ain't nobody leaving soon, so keep dancing. I can't stop the feeling, so just dance, dance, dance. I can't stop the feeling, so just dance, dance, dance. Come on. Ooh, it's something magical. It's in the air, it's in my blood, it's rushing on. I don't need no reason, don't need control. I fly so high, no ceiling when I'm in my zone. Cause I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh, I can't take my eyes off of it, moving so phenomenally. You're more like the way we rock it, so don't stop. Under the lights, when everything goes, nowhere to hide when I'm getting you close. When we move, well, you already know. So just imagine, just imagine. Nothing I can see but you when you dance, dance, dance. Feel good, good stop the. I can't stop the. I can't stop the. I can't stop the. I can't stop the. Nothing left to see but you when you dance, dance, dance. Good, good creeping up on you, so just dance, dance, dance. All those things I shouldn't do, but you dance, dance, dance. Ain't nobody leaving soon, so keep dancing. Everybody say, got this feeling in my body. I can't stop the feeling. Got this feeling in my body. I can't stop the feeling. Wanna see you move your body. I can't stop the feeling. Got this feeling in my body. Break it down. Got this feeling in my body. Can't stop the feeling. Got this feeling in my body. Come on.
You get a shiver in the dark, it's raining in the park, but meantime sound of the river, you stop and you hold everything. A band is blowing Dixie, double fall time. You feel alright when you hear the music ring. Well, now you step inside, but you don't see too many faces. Coming in out of the rain, they hear the jazz go down. Competition in other places. But the horns, they blowing that sound. Way on down south. Way on down south, London town. We check out, saving it up.
If you wanna take your jacket off, you can put it on the pile with mine. I'll meet you in the middle, yeah. You go to the bar, I'll be just fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's interview at Room for Discussion. Just 3 days before the elections in Austria and the referendum in Italy, the European Union is facing a crisis of legitimacy. Eurosceptics and populist parties are on the rise all over Europe. Many issues the European Union, the European nation states are facing at the moment, ranging from the refugee crisis on one hand to the sovereign debt crisis on the other hand, the EU seems the one to blame. Today, we'll talk about the problems of the European Union and its seemingly inability to act and react. Further, we'll try to discuss what the future of Europe could look like. Our guest today is Mr. Jan Zielonka, Professor of European Studies at the University of Oxford. In 2014, he gained much popularity with his book, Is the EU Doomed? There, he predicts a breakdown of the European Union and proposes a new way of European integration. During the interview, you can ask questions at the microphone at Jochem, or if you're following the live stream, by using hashtag RFD via Twitter. Now, let's give a warm round of applause to our guest.
Welcome, Mr. Zielonka, on my behalf as well. You are today at the UvA not only for Room for Discussion, but also because you're attending a workshop on remapping Europe. What are you going to do at that workshop exactly?
Well, I'm trying to figure out new maps of Europe, you know. We have this vision that there is either a map of nation states with different colors or everything in blue, yeah? In reality, it's a little bit different. So we will talk a little bit about this today, but at these workshops, I talk largely with geographers and anthropologists.
Okay. Yeah.
Political scientists are a little bit behind. You know.
So you are most famous for your book, Is the EU Doomed?, in which you predict the breakdown of the European Union. Within 3 days, we're going to have an election in Austria, a referendum in Italy, of which the outcomes will have crucial implications for their membership to the European Union. Is this now the time for the breakdown of the European Union? Will the outcomes of this election predict the breakdown?
Look, the people will speak, and if you are Democrats, you have to listen to your voters. The worst things can happen, which by the way happen in many countries, those, as I don't call them populist, but counter-revolutionary one.
Counter-revolutionary.
Yes, because you know what you observed is basically a rebellion against liberal order, which culmination of this was with the fall of Berlin Wall. You remember Fukuyama writings about the end of history. This was it, yeah? And my warden and St. Anthony's too was writing Lord Dahrendorf, you know, in this way. Son with refugee, the other with austerity.
But they have one thing in common.
They are against the principle of the order and the symbol of it, which is what? Free trade, human rights, of course, European integration.
Yeah. So you say the Union is doomed to fail. However, you also state that Europe will continue. What do you mean with this Europe? Is it values, norms? What is it?
We have this totally absurd discussion today. Yeah? On the one hand, those who believe the EU you know, should stay there because otherwise there will be the end of the world, right? And even though this union hasn't reformed itself for I don't know how many years, and even though most of the problems it is now trying to solve were created by itself. You know, and on the other hand, you have those people like Boris Johnson, with whom I spent 2 days recently, who says, we just take our toys out of Brussels to Westminster and everything will be fine.
But what are these problems they created themselves?
No, look, if you go to Greece and Italy and Spain, you understand that this is not just political culture. It's not like the Greeks were sitting under the sun drinking ouzo while you Dutch and Germans working hard and praying, yeah? The problem was, the problem is always is not simple, but one of the main causes was the wrong constructions of the euro. This is why the crisis which came from New York, not from Brussels, affected Americans seriously. They got the flu, but we got pneumonia, you know, and we cannot get out of this. How many of you believe that Greece will pay its debts after 3 bailouts? Raise your hands.
No one, I see.
But do you think then a fiscal union could help the euro?
Let's say a small district of City of London. If you would go to a meeting of geographers or meeting of people who deal with modernization, innovation, what they would talk about? They would not talk about Latvia. They would talk about Rotterdam, about Stockholm, about large mega cities, sites of legal services and financial networks. This is where the action is.
So because the nation states are that strong, therefore a fiscal union will not work, and also the monetary union does not work?
No, look, this could work, but this was predicted early on in the 50s. This model of integrations, when states have monopoly, you come to a moment that you either have to basically commit collective suicides as a state, which is delegating more powers, all important powers, to the center in Brussels in this case, or you have to go back. But go back, you know, it's like with this bank, you know, too large to fail. So they dig themselves into the hole. They are not willing to delegate powers to the Central European government. And, you know, delegating power means, you know, that parliament from national capitals is transformed into European Parliament proper, yeah? And not the one we have now. That central banks delegates most power to the European sector, and so on. So they would transform themselves in a local government, and they are not willing to do this because they are the masters of the game. They are the master of the game. Of course, the situation is more complex because today, with the gap between creditors and debtors, you have also a situation that creditors don't want debtors to tell them what to do with their money. Very simple. It's a dilemma as old as money was invented. And also, we have some countries which are strong, like Germany, if not semi-imperial, by default, not design, I would say. And you have, you know, some countries which just basically are not sovereign any longer. It's like with those birds. You have eagles and you have ducks which cannot even fly, you know.
So you're saying that they can't go towards a more political integrated union, but they can also not go back to the nation state, right?
This is what I think. But I might be wrong. Brexit, in this sense, is a very interesting experiment. Because we will see if Britain will flourish, as Johnson and others believe, then it means that going back to nation states, it's not such a bad thing. But I somehow don't believe in this, for the very simple reason that states not only lost but gave up most of their prerogatives which made them valuable states. No, what has happened, you know, people talk globalization, you know, like Chinese would impose on us privatization and deregulation. No, we've done it ourselves. We basically deprived ourselves of any influence on economy by privatizing everything from, you know, from schools to railways to prisons even, by deregulating everything, which means giving up any controls, particularly over financial markets.
But after the financial crisis, we went back to more public institutions. There was bailouts of the banks by the public institutions, by the nation state.
Yeah, but who? Nation states or us as ordinary taxpayers? Nation states spend money on our behalf. I'm sorry. Who under these states? They just made decision which is now increasingly being contested. And had it been effective, had all of you, or at least most of you, or at least some of you believe that this works, but it doesn't. That's the point.
But what do
the proof of the, you know, pudding is in the eating.
But is there then anything next to a monetary union and a fiscal union that could save the euro?
If, you know, if I could live forever, many things would change. But life is not like this. You see, I believe that you got to adjust institutions to change. EU, which I supported for many years, has stopped doing this. It hasn't adjusted. What I see in Europe over the last 3 decades, it's as something what I call cascading unbounding. First geopolitical, I mean the fall of communism and Arab Spring, then economic, single market, single currency as our response to globalization. And then, of course, the biggest revolution, which is the internet revolution, which changed Europe beyond recognition. And we have not adjusted to this change, which means, you know, if I'm right, if neither EU can work in its current form, nor the states will regain glory after, you know, withdrawing from the Union, we probably have to think about integrations along different patterns.
Yeah, we will talk about your vision on integration in a later point in the interview. Now, one other question. These one-size-fits-all measures of the EU, you already criticized that the North is not similar to the South, and there's crucial differences. But with these measures of the EU, we also had the opportunity to live, work, and retire wherever we wanted in the European Union. Are we ready to give this up?
Well, I don't want to give it up. It is being taken away from me.
By the European
You know,
Union.
I have a part of pension in Holland. I have a part of pension in Italy. I have a part of pension in Britain. I don't know where I get it. You know, I don't want to give it up. But I don't know what the government tomorrow will invent in Britain or here. Because, you know, will they allow me to take pension if I live in another country? Well, I hope they will, but maybe they not. You see, this is already with the benefits in Britain. They say, okay, they can, you know, they pay taxes, yes, they work, yeah, but they cannot take the benefits and pay for the kids in Poland or Lithuania. Well, come on, this is the trend. This is where we came. It is all on the EU watch. And you see, we should absolutely not mix things. I'm utterly pro-European. I don't think we can just close ourselves behind, you know, national borders. I can imagine that jumping out of sinking ships might be a good solution for Britain, but I even don't think this is the case. I believe that we are so interdependent and we are so connected that we have to find a way to work together in a productive way.
Yeah.
And we are still rich and we are educated. So the only reasons we cannot get out of this vicious circle is that our politicians, I'm sorry to say, are either putting their heads into the sand or just trying to hold on to their positions.
But because, isn't that because they're afraid of losing even more, even more of this freedom to travel, to work, to live wherever?
No, it's who doesn't want to lose this freedom? The politicians or us?
No, us, the people, and they're afraid to lose their legitimacy.
Yeah, of course. I belong to those. I don't belong to the party of territoriality, building walls. Yeah, I belong to the party of Europe, of globalization. I believe in free movement and free exchange of ideas.
But hasn't the European Union set up those free movements?
It promised, but it didn't deliver. It promised, it didn't deliver. Look, we have to face reality. Borders now are being progressively reinforced. I travel every week somewhere. I'm checked whether on the border whether I come from Schengen or non-Schengen country. You see, this is a trend, and I ask myself how to stop it. And you can say, okay, you know, I've seen what has happened in Poland. My friends from Gazeta Wyborcza said, "Oh, people got mad, voted for Kaczynski." I've seen in America, people got mad voting for Trump. Well, I wouldn't vote for Trump. I wouldn't vote for Kaczynski. But you cannot treat electorate like this. You see, you have to try to regain trust of people. And this is not populist. This is democracy. And unless we find things which work not only for those privileged, You see, Poland was the country which grew 25% in the last decade. It's not like Greece, which went down 25%.
But that was also thanks to the European Union, wasn't it?
This partly thanks to the money from the European Union. I'm also European Union. I don't deny positive things of the EU, but now, unless we do something, the game is being lost.
And what could we do to not lose the game?
Well, first of all, we have to look at the mirror. You know, all of us who are liberals, instead of finger pointing and saying all those crazy populists want to take, you know, run those countries, you have to first look at the mirror. This is where it starts. It starts with us. And what we have done, we have to acknowledge. We should say mea culpa. We have, as liberals, on the left, on the right, tolerated rampant inequalities. We practice socialism for the rich and capitalism for the poor. What was this, you know, bailout of banks? We basically took money from ordinary taxpayers and throw this on one sector of the economy, and we said that we are going to reform them, and we haven't. We haven't reformed them. And everybody now expects another crash. We invaded other countries on very dubious grounds, and even tortured prisoners. We spied on our citizens and persecuted those who revealed this. I mean, give me a break. Are you surprised that people vote for other parties? We have first to understand what we have done wrong. Then we have to change elites. Because it's not enough to change the message, you know. It's also important to change the messenger, because some messengers, you know, don't have credibility. And I said it not only to you, but I said it in a big meeting of socialist leaders, which Schmidt, Timmermans, and others sitting in the first row, and I said it. It's time for you to go. You know, because you cannot regain trust of people with the legacy we generated. And we always say, yeah, we are the best liberal Democrats and so on. No. We've done things which were totally contrary to what we preached. And this is, again, not populist. This is simply looking back into the mirror as the first step and not finger pointing. The second, we have to think seriously about reforms. Reforms which are not just window dressing, but which are fundamental. And I don't know. I can propose few solutions how to do this.
What would be a solution for
But you see, but in democracy, it's not for me to decide or for politicians to decide. It is for me or politicians to propose certain solutions, and the public debate those things and decide. There are various options to build integrations in a different way. And we don't have this discussion. Today, there is no plan B. They are even unable to stop this silly travel of European Parliament between Strasbourg and Brussels. No, tell me, what is the plan B?
Are we on a sinking ship with the European Union?
Well, I think we are disintegrated on our eyes, but we don't want to acknowledge this. You see, disintegration is not only there's a big bang boom. Disintegration is also when institutions we created to provide certain public goods do not deliver. I mean, how many European summits we had on refugee crisis? And do you think, anybody of you think we solve it? There were always nice pictures, you know, the leaders were sending us reassuring tweeters, but we know it's all fake. This cannot continue. We have to really embark on more radical reform. And I fear that it is too late, and the so-called, as I call them, counter-revolutionary take it over, and they don't have idea. You know, these people are not so strong. They are strong because we are weak. That's the point.
But is it a lack of power from the EU then that they cannot take these reforms, or is it because they have too much power that they are not willing to make reforms?
It's not the power. You can have a lot of power, but you need to know what to do with your power. You know, when you have a president of European Council, Mr. Tusk, who prides himself, you know, that he's a pragmatist, and if you have a vision, go to a doctor. I mean, how can you... even talk about fundamental reform with a guy like this. Or you have a president of European Commission who is a symbol of anti regime, tax dodging and everything, and you expect him that he will, you know, reform financial system and tax corporations. I mean, it's like asking Mr. Berlusconi to introduce ethics to politics, you know.
So what we got out of this, I think, is that according to you, the European is certainly doomed and cannot continue in this way. Are there maybe any audience questions on this topic? Yes?
Jochem can hold the microphone. Yeah.
Since the European Union was established as a fundamentally economic union rather than a political one, which is part of the problem that we're discussing, most of your claims about the reasons for the disintegration of the Union in this conversation have been based on economic considerations. But Brexit was actually due to a populist vote that was mostly stoked by the Leave campaign's emphasis on immigration. So my question is as follows. Given that most Europeans are in favor of the 4 freedoms, their freedom to move around the Union, retire wherever they want, and work, but various court rulings in case law, like Martinez Sala or Traiani, have expanded the rights of European citizens arriving in a new country to, for example, claim NHS benefits in the UK, or to quickly be able to access Dutch social security once they come here. And a lot of people who support PVV here, or who support UKIP in the UK, voted Leave, or are considering voting against the European Union, because immigrants are able to access more of the services than the ones prescribed by statutory law. Is it possible that having a discussion on those principles and moving those into the political realms, that they be legislated on rather than matters of case law by unelected judges, might stem the tide of populist movements?
Look, first of all, I disagree that EU was only about economics. If you look at the acquis, you could even conclude that this was only about agriculture. And you know, and my, your compatriot and my good friend Andy Moravcik, is, if those of you who study European Union, he studied treaties of Rome, what they were negotiating, and they were quarreling about milk quota, so he concluded it's not about peace, but milk quota. But you know, but for everybody who looked at the discourse, how European integration evolved and what were objectives, they were not only economic. The fact that the acquis is most developed in economics, I suppose, has something to do with 30,000 business lobbies in Brussels, you know, who get, you know, better ear of the EU officials than ordinary citizens who hardly have any access to EU decision making. But you see, and I also disagree that you can separate economics from politics. You see, I was shocked when I went to the Reuters agency, the Reuters Thomson. You know, it's the biggest news agency of the world. They have 150 offices, and CNN has only 10. So it's a really giant in generating news. And I talked to the CEOs in Canary Wharf, and I asked them, what percentage of news, generating news, represent political news? And you'll be surprised to know that it's less than 3%. And what is else? On financial news. How can you do financial news and risk assessment without understanding politics? It is, for me, very difficult to understand. Not to mention that, you know, economic thinkings today with macroeconomics become more and more diverse from real life. But this is a general comment. On the issue of migration, you see, it very much depends where you start from. You can start from the lofty principles. And here I would say, you know, it's an interesting conversation. But you can start with the practice of migration policies. First of all, what we have seen in Budapest station, Keleti, was not something extraordinary or new for Europe. Because those of you are too young to remember, but maybe you have seen a documentary, which I advise everybody, Italian documentary, I don't remember Italian name of the human cargo, about Albanian ship arriving in Brindisi in 1991. And I've seen exactly the same scenes. as a station of Budapest. And what have we done since 1991? We were patrolling on the sea, you know, we were chasing traffickers and letting thousands of people die, transforming Mediterranean Sea into a collective graveyard. And when Italians introduced this Operation Mare Nostrum, EU withdrawn funds because this would encourage people to embark on this journey. I mean, this was our policy. Britain didn't have to take all immigrants, labor force from other countries of the European Union. Holland, Germany, all other countries, but Sweden, Britain, and Ireland, because they had no choice, introduce, you know, 7 years transition. They introduced 7 years transition, not necessarily because they are more xenophobic than Brits. No, because they argued that we have to prepare social services for influx of labor. And what have British done? They invited everybody. They feared labor gaps in the labor market. They drone also cost of labor down using migrants. And they haven't used tax money, which they received from those who worked, you know, from other countries, to invest in schools in local countries where there were kids not speaking English, to help National Health Service to function well with the influx of new workers. They haven't done anything. And then, of course, when things went out of hands, they said, then we have to stop all of this.
Yeah.
But today, till today, they haven't provided any evidence that actually those migrants abuse social services in Britain. There's no evidence.
Okay, so now that we've established what is wrong with the European Union, now we can talk about what has to happen for the European Union to break down. So Angela Merkel just announced that she is running for Chancellor again. How important is Angela Merkel for the conservation of the European Union as we know it today?
Look, Angela Merkel is seen as the last hope of liberals, but to be very honest, when I heard her last speech on some local rally in Germany, that the most important things we should do is to learn Christmas carols by heart and sing in family, because we don't do it enough, and therefore we lost family and social spirit. You know, I don't. Well, that's fine. You know, I'm only in favor of Christmas carols, but I'm not sure whether this will represent the solution for problems we have.
But she is seen as the forefighter of the European Union, right? With rising populist parties and populist powers all over Europe, she is the one that is the symbol for the European Union, right?
Yes, but she is also a symbol of things which went wrong. Sorry, the austerity policy. It is on her watch, and not just her finance minister.
But do you think
the refugee? She first made a declaration to take them, but never consulted with anybody, and then reversed it gradually. I mean, come on. She is also responsible for many things which went wrong. I'm not against Angela Merkel. I have nothing against, but I don't think this is the solution. And of course, I'm very pleased that Germany will not be run by Mrs. Le Pen tomorrow. But in the long run, why Germany is so important? Germany is so important because today, if you want to solve anything, you don't go to Brussels, you go to Berlin. This is the EU, we are living it. Where you find it in the treaties? Nowhere, but the treaties do not function. You know, if the treaties would function, you know, if the Schengen and Dublin conventions would be applied, Mr. Orban was right. Because, you know, if you would apply this, you know, you just have to process those people, send them to detention or concentration camp as you want, and register them, and everybody who wants to leave, you have to shoot them.
But you also can't say that these treaties are not working at all. I mean, we are making use of the Schengen Agreement, right?
Yeah, but look, it is not as not working at all. The point is that it works insufficiently to reverse the tide of history. That if we don't change those things radically, we will be out, those who believe in free travel, human rights, minority rights, cultural pluralism, and kind of cooperation which is not based only on our, kind of egoistic instincts.
You just mentioned radical change. Populist parties all over Europe are also crying for radical change. Do you see them as a possibility for the EU to finally overcome this institution?
Look, first of all, I wouldn't criticize everything what they do, because some of those things they try to do may not work, but you cannot dismiss it out of hand. Take, for instance, Podemos or Cinque Stelle, right? They experiments in direct democracy, that they poll on internet members before they make any decision. Yes, it sounds like a recipe for paralysis in decision making, and we've seen in Rome when Cinque Stelle, a candidate won elections, you've seen that they cannot behave professionally enough. But you see, but we have to find a way to connect to citizens and voters.
Do you think a direct democracy could work?
So the idea that we can go ahead with the parliamentary representation, even though parties are representing hardly anybody today, and parliamentarians do most silly things like the expenses claim scandals or other things. I just don't believe that this is the only thing we have. Nor do I believe that we can run Europe by referenda tomorrow. Because what I have a problem with referendum. Referendum is not only that it reduces complex problems to simple answers. The problem of referenda is that the winner takes all. There's no incentive for compromise. It's a conflict-ridden mechanism. And I don't think I want to live in Europe where somebody wins, I don't know how little percentage, and just introduce a caliphate in my country, even though of Christian origin. Look at Poland today. I mean.
So is that what distinguishes you from a typical populist Eurosceptic?
So no, what I want to say is don't dismiss everything what they do out of hand. Even in Poland, with all my criticism what they do, for instance, of curbing abortion rights and with public television, I think they've done some good things in the field of social policy.
So, but the Populist Party indeed listen to the people, and that is the problem of Europe. The European institutions don't listen to the people. But are the populist parties then the way to break up the European Union?
Well, I think they are already breaking.
But is that desirable, according to you?
I think the game is finished. I'm sorry. I think, look, I was saying that this will happen too when I wrote my book 2 years ago. But now I think since then, refugee crisis, Brexit, it's go on. We will be lucky if Le Pen will not win in France.
But it is happening, but I'm asking you, is it desirable in this way to happen? Because it also means a rise of the nation states and therefore less European interconnectedness, which you desire as well, right?
Look, I don't control those things.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you whether you think it's desirable that the European Union will break up due to the populist parties.
Look, I wish European Union would reform itself. And in my book, even I made a proposal of very practical way of reforming itself. I don't, first of all, I fear that this would be too little too late. And I just don't think they will do this. They are not ready to do this. That's the point.
Okay.
They will cling to the arrangement as long as they will go under. I'm sorry to say this. I hate to say this, but I'm independent observer, and I don't want to be a fool tomorrow.
No.
And I say it openly. Some time ago, they thought I'm crazy. Today, they even invite me to Brussels to hear what I want to say. But I just don't think. I don't see the movement. I don't see determination, and most important. I don't see any imagination, because you need to have an idea. You have to to see the world in a different way, and they just...
That's what we're going to come to next. First, maybe another audience question on the European Union, on the State of the Union.
Or the breaking down of the European Union, or the populist parties in the European Union.
Yes.
I have a question here on the front. Wait, the
Just a
microphone's
second.
coming to you. Yes.
Cool. Well, it's not a question about the EU, but do we need Bernie Sanders here in Europe? Bernie Sanders inspired many young Americans who really want to change. But we don't have that person. We have Le Pen, we have Wilders, we have Farage, for God's sake. Do we need a Bernie Sanders here?
Well, look, the point is, in Europe, like it was in America, there was Sanders, and Democratic Party did everything to get rid of him. I see the same in Britain. There's Corbyn, and all Blairites do everything to get rid of him. We had Tsipras in Greece, and the whole European establishment trying to get rid of him, or to humiliate him, to force him to submission, you know? This is, look, it is not only about good project. There is a political struggle going on here. It's about money, positions, and everything. People just don't go out like that. And the funny thing is that these counter-revolutionary forces understood that elections actually work for them. Yeah? Election work for them. So therefore, now I've been in Cardiff before yesterday with Klaus Hofer, one of the most liberal social democrats from Germany, saying publicly, well, we have to stop with, put so much emphasis on elections. Well, we already have done this. We shifted more and more powers to non-majoritarian institutions, constitutional courts, central banks, a European Commission. I mean, the government would always come to you and say, well, yeah, this is a good project, but we are unable to do that. And of course, the problem is that it's not only those non-majoritarian institutions. In my view, the problem is much more serious, that democracy lost control of the markets.
Yeah. Let's try to see how maybe in your vision democracy could gain again control over the markets. Could you maybe briefly, in 2 or 3 minutes, explain the outline of your vision? Like, how do you imagine a Europe to be?
Look, what I've done in this book, I said three things. First, you have to break monopoly of states and allow firms, NGOs, and cities and regions to take part in integration. Second, you have to build integration on a more functional rather than territorial basis. Stop this illusion that we're building, European state with center in Brussels running, in the Westphalian fashion. Let's have integrations with different members in different forms under different organizational schemes in different fields. Just to give you an example, why do we need Hungary or Austria to have a say equal to Holland or Italy on maritime traffic? I never understood this. Or why should maritime traffic be run in the same way as human rights or competition policy? I never understood this. And then you have to decentralize the project and bring it closer to people. But recently, since I wrote this book, I was also thinking, in this book I wrote about 3 possible scenarios of integration. Now I'm thinking, what can happen now? If really EU is doomed, a nation state will not recover, will not regain its glory after this, then you have to think about different ways of integrating. And I think 4 scenarios for me are possible. And I'll be very brief. One is a kind of what we already had but never accepted. This is variable geometry, differentiated integration. We only had it, but all the EU specialists treated it as aberration. So, okay, there are some countries in Europe, in Euro, others are not, but they should join eventually and so on. But now I think this is accepted. but these still states will play the really
So
role.
it's like a pick and choose of some countries might pick Schengen, others won't.
Exactly. So this is one possibility. And I don't find this possibility very realistic, frankly, because this is defensive way of preserving from the EU what you can. I don't think it can work. Another is to envisage a kind of ordoliberal empire, you know, which puts emphasis not so much on legal arrangements like variable geometry, but the real power. Already now, we talk about this. If you want to do anything, you have to go to Berlin. And Germany, this doesn't have to be bad news in the sense that such a center, imperial center, can basically provides collective goods for others. My problem is that Germany is unwilling and unable to do this. Unwilling partly because of history and unable partly because of the vision of the world, which thinks that, you know, that ordoliberalism is good for Greeks, Cypriots, and everybody else. But I also entertain two visions which are not based on states, two visions of integrations which are not based on states. One I called functional networks, and the other I called cascading or chaotic pluralism. And I take this from the study, because if you look, for instance, at this map of Europe where we started, you know, this blue map or nation states. But if you, for instance, look at the map of financial transactions, you see that not Brussels or even Frankfurt is the center, that London, Luxembourg, and Amsterdam are the center. That in Luxembourg and Amsterdam, there are more financial transactions than in Germany as a country and France together. Which means that our vision of geography of Europe is somehow misguided. And I actually also believe that businesses also have stake in institutions that work. And certainly NGOs, and certainly other actors like cities and regions. So Europe of networks is, you can imagine integrations where states are still there, but not as engine of integrations, because there will be private or public actors on different levels as engines of integration. And then, but you see, when I read literature from the internet studies, for them, network is already a passé. Because when casters invented networks, it was 20 years ago. They see totally different word and map, consequentially, which emerges from those studies. Look at social protest. Social protest, Poland is a beautiful example, because Poland, you know, pride itself, you know, we had solidarity, you know, strikers occupying factories,
or the abortion
organizing
process.
demonstrations. So this is how we organize social protest. But this is passé, this was 30 years ago. Today, social network, what has happened? There were two occasions when government went on its knees. One with ACTA, and the other with the black woman strikes against abortion law. And these were different people, no leaders, no institutions, and the same pattern you could observe in Egypt, in Istanbul, during the mass demonstration. So you organize protest, there is no leadership, no institutions, people gather for particular cause, they disperse and go to another. This is a totally different ballgame, you know?
Yep. So you advocate for this functional networks, because networks of regions, cities, and NGOs, because they are more efficient, correct?
Look, what does it mean efficient?
But you claim that the European Union is not efficient, and therefore these networks are efficient.
No, but look, but this is not a theoretical question. You have to look what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And because you can have a lot of theories, you have to look for possibilities. See, I actually believe that this cannot just be driven by public actors. What you need to do, and this is the most tricky thing, is to re-establish a kind of public authority on transnational level. Because with the unbounding, states don't control the borders. transactions are transnational, communication is transnational. So you have to adjust the model of governance to the world it is there, where it is transnational.
So you think
And
there is the need for a central European...
Central, why you say central? You see, public authority doesn't have to be central.
But at least
it can be local
above.
too.
Okay.
It depends on the issue. This is why I talk about functional, that you don't always have to think that governance is a pyramid, you know, and somebody that has to be on the top of the pyramid and knows better what happens below. No, the world is much more complicated. The only thing is that some people see chaos with any small of decentralization. It's not about that. So you see, we have to kind of open ourselves up. It's like complex economics. You see, the paradigm of economics assumes that markets are rational. But they are not. We don't even know what the markets are. And you see, the same with politics. We have to open ourselves up. We know that we are interdependent. We know that we need to do things in transnational fashion, and we don't want actors to behave like predators, like either financial or security. So we need public authority to somehow organize it and sometimes even control or punish it.
But what would that public authority then look like in your vision? Because I'm still having a hard time to picture this, to make it concrete.
You assume that you have a government with powers to discipline actors.
Yeah.
But if you look, for instance, on firms, firms which are sick and tired of EU are being unable to regulate their transactions because they have often conflicts, they need predictability and so on. What they do, they create the arbitration
code of conduct, so to speak.
Chambers, which they voluntarily, submit themselves to the authority. Of course, there could be always free riders who will abuse the system, but the same phenomenon you see in structural organizations. Greece was accused for free riding, and it was very central, seemingly strong European authority.
But without such an authority, it's even more difficult to ensure accountability, isn't it?
I don't think so. You see, look, you have to understand that there are formal institutions and informal institutions. And if formal institutions do not function, informal take over. You see, and this is what happened actually in the European Union, why you have to go to Germany to fix anything. Before, formal institutions don't function. See, and the same, you see, actors, particularly weak actors, what they do if they think that the formal laws do not reflect their interests, they cheat. They cheat. This is the famous Hirschman dilemma, voice and exit. You try to raise voice, but you are not being listened. You are being elbowed and submitted to certain rules. So you do exit.
So you're saying that since now institutions are cheating anyway, there's no way to enforce these rules. But in your vision,
people are cheating.
Just two questions.
Institutions are cheating when they do not. They cannot work in practice.
Yeah, but in your vision then, who makes these rules and how are they going to be enforced?
Look, those rules have to be made by the constituencies which are adequate to the issue on the table. That is exactly the difference. Because all people in the governance studies will tell you that the governance structure should reflect complexity of the things to be governed. And the more complex environment, the less chances that the hierarchical centralized system detached from problems on the ground, which are different, will be applicable.
Okay.
Very simple. This was never accepted in European studies and European integration. They always thought that progress means most power is in the center. I don't think this works. And as a matter of fact, even nation states understood it better than the EU, that you have sometimes delegate powers, that you have to let local actors to do things themselves. And also, self-government is the ABC of democracy. I mean, democracy which doesn't envisage forms of participation is what is this?
But isn't there a huge danger as well within these networks that there will be discrimination and
Look, the dangers are in all systems. See, had the system we have function, I wouldn't mind. We wouldn't be here trying to speculate about alternatives if the system would function. If the inequalities will not be ever greater with each year, if people would feel represented by those who actually run European institutions, if problems, those external shocks, security or migrations or so, have been handled in the way which most of people believe are legitimate and workable.
But you're saying that inequalities are becoming greater, but like you're arguing for measures which would reinforce privatization, deregulation.
No, I don't argue this measure.
But it would be a deregulation, right?
No, it depends. You see, it is not all and nothing. If you decentralize government, it doesn't mean that you deregulate. You actually can have closer to the field you work and people who are involved, or sectors, economics, much stringent regulation, but it's on a different level and dealing on different space. You see, you have to always look at the triangle: territory, authority, and rights. This is the triangle. And you can play with this in different way.
But I understand your model of networks, especially when it comes down to economic factors and people cooperating in that sense. But let's try to make it concrete. For example, take a crisis such as the refugee crisis. How would a model of networks solve that in a different way than the hierarchical model of European institutions that we have right now? Because I have difficulty of understanding or trying to grasp the fact that if you're simply a model of networks, that actors involved that don't want to be involved in it, other than the refugee countries or the countries surrounding the refugee countries, will be able to participate in that network and will contribute to it.
No, but we have a system where countries which are exposed to migration are stocked.
Yeah.
And we have no way to have a redistribution system organized in a centralized way. We have no way.
No. Now we see that because the EU is failing right now. But how would a network then
and so
solve
you
this
think
problem?
that if you force those countries who do not want to take refugees, would you think they will do this? They will not.
No.
But in a system of pick and choose, it's
You see, as I said, I never discuss with federalists, because if European federal project would work, I wouldn't see why not. But it never did.
and it doesn't work, do you think, because of two different cultures? Or
No, there are always more reasons than one. But one of the reasons is that this model of integration is controlled by states. And the model of integration is pyramid-like hierarchical, and is detached from concern of people. You see, the point here is that you have to open yourself up. You cannot see everything in a simple terms. I know that the Dutch are very kind of organized. They want to have everything. But sometimes you have to look at those things from bottom up and not from top down. And things are sometimes more complex than our sort of simple schemes which we, with the education we've got, can comprehend.
But in such a system you're proposing, it is also extremely difficult to ensure solidarity. And I think in the EU, in the past, we have seen solidarity acts. And we have seen, I've just read an article about Slovakia, who could reform itself due to the European Union.
But I'm sorry, solidarity you cannot guarantee by decree or by law. You cannot do this. Solidarity is something that you trust the others and you believe that what you do is in your common interest. Solidarity you cannot introduce by decree. I'm sorry.
So with networks, we would rebuild this trust because people will choose to operate with each other instead of being
No, because
forced.
I believe that networks will be closer to people and actors. And, you know, because I don't think only about people, but I think about people organize themselves in economic or public causes, yeah? And I believe they will be closer to them. And they will also watch each other.
Yeah.
Do I think that networks will solve things? No. We would have to invent this problem because, of course, there are dangers of transparency, accountability. I'm very much aware of this. But let's not idealize the current system because the current system is not so transparent as it is claimed. It's not so accountable as it is claimed. So the idea that networks will be those non-transparent and unaccountable and now everything is fine is just for the birds, you know. Look, my point is this. It's not that what I propose is better. If you don't think that I'm right, propose something else. But what I think we have to agree on that what we've got doesn't work.
Yeah.
So if you want to tell me that I'm wrong, come up with a new proposal. This is why I'm meeting you in this hall, because the future is not mine, the future is yours. And you know much more digital world than me. I'm an old-fashioned dinosaur.
Maybe give the audience the floor then. Is there an audience question, our final audience question?
It's on? Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, if you allow me, I have a question actually. You say the model you propose is not better than the current model. Then why don't we stick to the current model? And I don't... The model you propose is not better than the model we already have.
No.
Which
I
doesn't
would
make
say
sense to
everything is better. I mean, no, not everything is better,
Okay.
because you can really make things much worse. No, I don't say, I think it's better, but I might be wrong. I don't want to claim monopoly of wisdom. I want to discuss plan B and plan C. And if you don't agree with me, give me your alternative. But what I believe, that we have made out of beautiful aquarium a fish soup. And there's no way back, okay? That is what I believe.
Is there maybe another audience question besides Jochem? Yeah, over there.
Hi, I was interested in what would be the effect of the new model on inequality. Do you think it make a difference?
On inequality.
The new model, what would it have for effect on inequality?
Look, with inequality, no, first of all, we have to stop the neoliberal madness. I'm sorry. This is where you have to stop. Because, you know, the idea that you have to pay all these astronomical salaries, not just to top bankers, but to any administration, also of this university, I suppose. You know, I've been yesterday, that because we will not recruit top executives because they will go somewhere else. You know, yesterday in my college discussion, I asked, what is the ratio between top administrators and on Bursa, deputy Bursa, and people on the down level? Because those who really run centers within my college are nothing. Symbolic. 12,000 pounds or something. And I don't know, but I expect that the top administrations, which I found utterly incompetent very often, and very often harming the work on the centers on the down, earn, I don't know, 10 times or 20 times more. So they will not reveal the gap, but they will tell you, yeah, you know, if we wouldn't employ Bursa on the salary schemes, you know, we would not be competitive on the market. I don't care. You see, we have to see, you know, it is not just questions of justice, it's a question of value for money. The assumption, you know, that you have to gratify people in such a disproportional way is sick.
Yeah.
It is also sick that we know, but we don't have a simple solution technical solutions for a complex problem of inequality.
Yeah, sorry, we have to wrap up again. It's been a very interesting discussion, but I want to also ask you a final question as well. We heard your vision on the EU. We heard plenty of times that the current European Union model will not work. So for our final question, I would like to ask you, can you give me a time indication in a matter of months, years, decades, when will the European Union break down?
Well, international institutions don't break down. You know, look at
so
the Western.
Never.
No. It can break tomorrow, because tomorrow the Germans may decide we had enough, and it will be the end. Or Le Pen will win in France. It will be the end. But look, you have to think in more, kind of, again, not so simple way. Look, there was organization you are too young to remember, Western European Union. It existed, I think, for 4 or 5 decades. It was supposed to be European response to security problems. It had parliamentary assembly. It had even general secretary for many years, Van Enkelen.
Yeah.
He traveled all over the world, made speeches. Assembly was meeting in Paris. It was all fake. It was all fake.
Yeah.
Because each time there was an international crisis, the states, members of the Western European Union, decided to use UN, OSCE, coalitions of the willing. And when, with Maastricht Treaty, they decided to abolish Western European Union and merge it with EU, the parliamentarians in the assembly, those decided that they are not going to give it up. And they created something under a different name, paid by some other money, and they call it, I don't know even. See, the point of disintegration is not only Big Bang, that they come to the European Council and say, okay, we had enough. The point of disintegration is that you don't deliver public goods which are supposed to. And the difference within EU and America, for instance, state, is that when America's system doesn't function, they have elections, they elect somebody else. And hopefully they will change policy, for good or for worse. In the EU, it doesn't function this way. So they always have to emphasize the raison d'etat.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, in my view, EU is disintegrating on our eyes, but this is not necessarily because of Brexit. It is largely because it doesn't solve the problems we are confronted with, like growth, inequality, cultural conflict, and also, the borders in various, not only migration, but in other aspects.
Okay. So the EU is doomed. Thank you very much for attending this interview. And before we give a warm applause to Mr. Zielonka, I want to let you all know that we are having a discussion with Steve Keen on December 9th, that's Friday next week, on Is Neoliberalism Doomed? It will start at 1 till 2, so we hope to see you there. And for now, please let's give a warm applause to Mr. Jan Zielonka.